I'm going to make a bold statement, but I like iced coffee better than hot coffee.
I absolutely like it better than hot coffee. In fact, most of the time I drink 1 cup of hot coffee in the morning, and then the rest of the day I'm like iced coffee all the way, even in the winter.
When I go camping, it's nice to have hot coffee.
Well, sure, because you're in the wilderness.
Right. But I feel like in general, iced coffee just tastes more delicious.
And I just prefer a nice cold beverage more than a hot beverage.
That's true. You have an ice
I'm all
obsession.
about my ice. Ice, baby. And straws. And I don't want it any other way. And do not give me lukewarm anything. No. It's weird.
I think that's where we're opposite though, because I'm literally drinking a glass of like still tap water.
Oh God,
right
just
now.
at room temperature. I forgot how much I loved crushed ice because it's all the little ice chips like more evenly make your drink cold, and you don't have to have your straw through a giant like ball of ice cubes. And that shows how much ice I use in the beverage.
You take a scientific approach to literally everything you do.
I know. I've been thinking about like ice chips, like more surface area. Do they melt faster though and water down my drink more? I actually don't think so because I think it stays like more consistently cool instead of like the ice all melting together. I don't know. I should probably do some more research on this.
We're going to talk about beverages today, but not ice.
Yes.
So
Yes.
maybe we need to just have a whole episode on ice.
Ice. Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Emily.
We're 2 long-distance best friends with a passion for learning about all the things that make everyday life interesting.
We'll share our findings with you on researching the obvious. So this episode, I think, let's get into our backstory a little bit more.
We've been talking about liquor laws probably as long as we've been friends, but we met at the University of New Hampshire, but neither of us are from New Hampshire.
Way back when, in 2004, we signed up for college at University of New Hampshire, and they would randomly assign you roommates. I actually don't know if this is how colleges still do this, but they would randomly assign you roommates.
There were a couple of questions.
Yeah.
You could put some dorm preferences on there, right? There was like an all women's dorm. There was like a the mini dorms, which were like outdoors.
They had themed dorms.
Yeah, group people together with similar interests, and then there were just like the freshman dorms. Yeah, so
but we were both in the honors program because we're giant nerds.
Yes,
always.
So we wanted to live in the honors dorm,
right? So we chose that. And then I think the only other question was whether we were a smoker or not, which back then it was definitely not referring to pot. It was tobacco.
Yes, you smoke cigarettes because you probably won't like living with someone who does or does not if you do.
So based on those 2 questions, which dorm do you want to live in and do you smoke? They randomly put us together as freshman roommates.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Yes. Point of pride. We actively chose to live together after that for all 4 years of college.
It is true. When I started living with my partner after college, there was just the constant joke of when am I going to have actually lived with my partner longer than I lived with Katie.
That's right. And I held the record for 4 years. At least.
A very long time.
We didn't just become friends and then stay friends and see each other occasionally on campus. We literally lived together for 4 years and did pretty much everything together. Not like we didn't have our own things going on too. Many a weekend in an empty dorm where other people were visiting their parents who lived, like 2 hours away or whatever. And we're like, nope, we're still here.
That's a good point because since I was from Western New York, and you were from Indiana.
Yep.
But we were going to school at University of New Hampshire. Going home during the semester just wasn't an option.
Yep. But as you said, the rest is history because here we are 20 years later and still going strong and also still talking about liquor laws because New Hampshire piqued our curiosity. I think that was really the start of it.
Well, okay. I mean, first of all, you're in college, so obviously there's alcohol happening. Right. So, I mean, number one.
Before we were 21, though, obviously. We did nothing illegal.
Right. If anyone, is listening from law enforcement, we did not drink before we were 21. Not at all.
Nope. We did not go to parties.
New Hampshire is very unique, especially compared to Indiana and New York. So that did get us talking a lot about alcohol laws in general.
And then you had the benefit of moving to several different states. And you would always tell me about, I'm living in Kansas now, or I'm living in Oklahoma now. And there's this weird thing where we can't buy this, or we can only buy it this way. I started comparing and contrasting pretty regularly what some of the more, odd liquor laws or just the differences between the states, right?
Just some of the weird nuances. Ooh, so let's talk about what we noticed in New Hampshire, because I think that is something that really set us off, particularly because in New Hampshire, liquor is cheaper than beer for the most part. And so in college, we drank mostly liquor. I didn't really drink beer at all in college.
But you're right. Liquor was way more bang for your buck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's because of the way New Hampshire regulates their liquor.
Yes, correct. If you have not been to New Hampshire, you will notice that as soon as you cross the state line, there is a big red building, New Hampshire State Liquor Outlet. They're conveniently positioned on the borders of the state, but they're also throughout the state.
Yeah, there's some in Concord and other more central places, obviously. But the big ones, the big outlets, are definitely on the state borders.
And of course, the bonus here is that in New Hampshire, there is no sales tax and there is no liquor tax. So you are purchasing it for exactly what it says on the tag. And because the state is running these liquor outlets, they control the prices and there's no competition. They just get to decide what they're charging, which is usually slightly less than what you would pay somewhere else, and then also minus the sales tax.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know people will drive up from Massachusetts or something just to stock their liquor cabinet. We would always stop and get stuff for my parents, even when we'd come home from
New Hampshire
college. The New Hampshire liquor store actually has deals with some major liquor producers as well. For example, I know Jack Daniel's is one where they have a deal. So the price that they can charge for that in New Hampshire is lower than you might find other places.
Yeah. So it's pretty sweet setup they got going.
It was, pretty classic, I think, when other people, not us, were drinking and too young to purchase their own alcohol.
Right. Yes.
That you would give someone a $20 bill and then tell them that you wanted tequila or rum or whatever, and that person would buy you a handle, right? A 1.75 liter bottle.
1.75 liters for $20.
Yes. Well, and that usually they'd buy the bottom shelf stuff and then pocket the rest as their fee or whatever, right?
Right. So 20 was actually probably too much.
You and I would often buy Captain Morgan's because
why?
college.
Why did we lock on to that? I mean, I guess because it's kind of sweet and it's not an offensive taste.
We drink so much Captain and Coke, and there's no way I can't that anymore.
Nope. Can't do it. No.
And even people normally play beer pong, and in New Hampshire, because no one's drinking beer, you just all filled all the cups with water, and then everyone had their liquor drink. And so if you got it in the cup, on the side. And if you got it in the cup, then, you take a sip of your Captain and Coke. In fairness, though, that is probably a lot more sanitary.
Oh, yeah.
If you think.
Oh yeah. So I always thought, since that was what we saw in college, that that's just how people played beer pong most places, because I was like, oh, this makes sense. Everyone can have whatever drink they want, and there's only water in the cup, so it's not like gross. So when I actually played beer pong back in the Midwest with people and they were like actually putting beer in the cups, I was like, oh, like, why would you do that?
Now the nasty ping pong ball that has rolled across the disgusting floor is in your beer that you are drinking.
So I just always thought, oh, well, this just makes total sense sanitation-wise, and then also so that you could have whatever drink you wanted, because not everyone had beer. Most people were having like some kind of mixed drink. I just thought that was normal.
The Captain Morgan's, though, you could get a handle in New Hampshire for $18.
Yeah, it was a deal. Steal, really.
I mean, beer was not that cheap for the number of drinks you could make with a $1.75.
Well, that's probably true. Though Keystone Light was pretty cheap.
Well, true. But who wants to drink that?
Yeah, exactly. When you could have Captain Morgan's.
But I think that is what made it really interesting to us to think about liquor laws, because New Hampshire does have a fairly unique system, especially compared to New York. When I was a kid in New York, you couldn't buy liquor on Sundays, and then you could buy beer on Sundays, but not until afternoon. And then
interesting.
They changed that, so now it doesn't matter, but you still have to buy liquor in a separate liquor store. So only beer can get sold in a grocery store. It's like beer and wine coolers, not even actual wine.
Oh, wow. It's wine coolers only. Okay. Malt beverages.
Yes, that's all you can buy in a grocery store in New York. Otherwise, you have to go to a liquor store. But for the most part, there's like a liquor store next to every grocery store. Okay. So it's not a huge deal. So the New Hampshire thing was pretty interesting and different for me.
Yes, and me too. And honestly, I had never paid attention to that prior, because I was a big nerd that didn't do much alcohol stuff before college. But what I think was interesting is that as you moved around too, you took notice of different states and their different laws. So let's talk about why it can be so different state to state, which is prohibition. Yeah, no,
exactly. It's really interesting, actually. Basically, because we had this whole period of prohibition in, the 1920s, after prohibition was repealed with the 21st Amendment, the government was basically like, okay, so you don't want us to regulate this, so every state gets to decide what they want to do.
Yep.
So they basically just punted it to the states to decide what they wanted to do with alcohol. And then depending on the state, sometimes the state would punt it to the county or even the or even towns. The municipals.
Right. Because they didn't want to make the decisions either.
It's why every state is different, but also why in some states you might find every county or even every town is different depending on the laws.
And there are still some dry counties out there.
There's 80 dry counties in 9 different states. Arkansas actually has the most dry counties, and they have over 30. So of 80 dry counties, 30 of them are in Arkansas.
That's a good chunk. There's 2 basic ways that states have approached their alcohol laws or alcohol control. And one is the control model, and New Hampshire is an example of that. And basically that allows the government in a jurisdiction, such as the state, to be a market participant directly controlling the distribution and sale of beverage alcohol within its borders. The state is the one who gets to decide on the prices and pocket the profit. And then the other method is the license model, which is basically what all the others, if you're not a control state, you're a licensed state. And that would, you have to purchase a license in order to sell alcohol on your premises. And then, of course, that varies widely state to state. And I'm sure cost also varies widely state to state. So most states are using the license model, and they have different requirements for different scenarios. So, to own a liquor store, there's a license. To sell liquor, alcohol in your business, that's a license. To do it at a restaurant, that's a license. So, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the two main types, and only 25% of the U.S. is under the control model, like New Hampshire does.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was looking more specifically at the control states. For New Hampshire in particular, what I thought was interesting is they have a fact sheet that we will link in the show notes and share our sources. In 2022, they had $172,600,000 in revenue and more than $4 billion in net profits has been raised since the first store opened in 1934, which I thought was really interesting. And then, of course, your next question is, what do they do with all of that profit? Well, they have no sales tax and they have no income tax. So if you live and work in New Hampshire, you do not pay income tax. So they use profits from the control of the liquor stores to go to different needs for the state: education, health, and social services. They do actually contribute also to an alcohol abuse and prevention fund and the Granite Advantage healthcare program. And roughly $153.5 million as of 2022 was just transferred to the general state fund. So all that money just goes to the state, and then they use it like they would your tax dollars, except you got some alcohol out of it.
Yeah, I guess instead of paying income tax on your income, you're just buying alcohol. But speaking of these control states, after I lived in New Hampshire with you for college, you moved back to Indiana, but I moved to Ohio.
Ah, yes, Ohio.
Yes. And Ohio also is a control state for liquor only, not for beer.
Yeah, they're a weird one. And also, I have noticed Ohio laws as well because we visit Cleveland often.
The crazy thing is, so when Kevin, my partner, when we moved to Ohio, we go grocery shopping because we've just moved there. And we go in the grocery store and they had liquor in the grocery store. And we got so excited. We were just sitting there. Oh my gosh, we can buy liquor in the grocery store. This is so novel, And so we bought some, go home, try it. And we were like, wait a minute, this tastes really terrible. What is going on? Because we bought like whiskey or something. And we were like, this tastes awful. What is going on? And we realized that in Ohio, you can sell liquor in the grocery store if it is 21% alcohol by volume or lower. So most alcohol, like vodka, whiskey, those are 40% alcohol by volume. That's generally the standard. But then in Ohio, if you buy vodka or whiskey or tequila in the grocery store, you're getting basically half of the standard
the strength.
Yes. So it tasted syrupy because you're getting half the amount of alcohol in the grocery store. So in Ohio, I saw this other model of liquor laws, and that just further extended our obsession with this whole situation. Yes. So if you want to get liquor, like regular foolproof liquor in Ohio, you have to go to a liquor store. And it's similar to New Hampshire, where it has to be a state controlled liquor store. What is interesting, though, is that there are some grocery stores in Ohio that have state liquor stores inside of them.
Oh, that's weird. Like the building is inside the grocery store building?
Yes, it's bizarre. It's like where the liquor aisles would be in the grocery store is actually contained in separate walls with a separate door and a separate cashier inside.
Oh, I haven't run into that in Ohio before. Interesting.
So if you wanted anything, any kind of alcohol that normally would be above 21% ABV, then you'd have to go to a state liquor store in Ohio. But otherwise, anything below, you could just get in a grocery store. So like Bailey's, Kahlua, those are normally under 21%. So you could just buy that in the grocery store. Any wine, any beer, you could just buy that in the grocery store.
So if you're moving to Ohio, do not be duped into buying vodka, whiskey, or any other hard distilled spirits. Because whatever, even if it seems like it might be a good deal, it is not, because you're getting half of what you paid for.
Yeah, it is not. Unless you want to make low proof drinks, I guess. But
I don't know. It's yeah, I don't even know who I don't get it.
Yeah, who is buying the 20% vodka? Right, I had no clue.
Like, you have to search for the fine print.
I think we had to Google it because I was so confused as to what was even going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then when we were
but not the case for beer in Ohio.
No.
Yeah.
No. Beer, because beer's not controlled by the state, so beer's whatever.
So it can be sold in the grocery. It can be sold. It can be sold in a separate store, can't it? Like not in the liquor store. Yeah, just the grocery.
The grocery, yeah, and convenience stores.
Yeah.
Well, and
it can
stores.
be sold. Yes, and it can be sold cold, which is an important distinction too.
Yes. But speaking of beer sales, I want to talk about when I was living in Ohio, my sister was going to college in Pennsylvania. She was going to Slippery Rock University, shout out Slippery Rock, which is just north of Pittsburgh. And so it was only about an hour from where I was living in Ohio. So I would sometimes go and visit her in Pennsylvania, and buying beer in Pennsylvania is crazy, or at least it was back when we were doing that. I will say that the laws have changed recently in Pennsylvania, but back then, I sound like I'm talking like, hundreds of years ago, but really it was only 15 years ago that this was going on. So I'd visit my sister, and you could only buy beer in a couple places. You could either buy beer at a beer distributor. And so they would have, they were a distributor. So it's just a store, basically. A lot of them were drive-throughs.
So brew-throughs.
Yeah, you could just drive your car in and they'd put, the beer in your car. And it's because it was a distributor. So that meant you had to buy it in distributor quantities, which is more
large.
It's more than 12. So you couldn't get a 12-pack or less at a distributor. So basically you're committing to at least a case of beer at that point, right? When you go to a distributor. So you could buy beer that way at a distributor. Or if you wanted less than that, you could buy it from a bar or a restaurant. So if you wanted a 6-pack in Pennsylvania, you had to go into a bar and ask for a 6-pack, and then they would let you buy it at the bar.
And take it with you?
Yes.
Just like a store, but the bar is the one selling it.
Yeah. And so that was how you could buy beer in Pennsylvania. And what's funny is Pennsylvania is one of the states that they basically punted the liquor laws to municipalities. So they don't have any fully dry counties in Pennsylvania, but if you look at a map of dry counties in the US, all of Pennsylvania is called a mixed county, which means that there's some areas of the county that are dry and some areas that are wet.
Wow, so it's dry. Like hyper local distinctions.
Yes, exactly. exactly. So in Pennsylvania, pretty much every county is mixed because there's some dry municipalities. And what's funny is my sister, where she went to school, the town next to hers was dry. So a lot of people would come over, and get alcohol in her town. So,
Which,
yeah.
at that point, I understand. Okay, maybe you're a town that's just like not really interested in alcohol, parties, fun, right? Okay, fine. But don't you want to cash in on that? Like, people are literally just going to leave your area and go get it somewhere where it's available, and you're missing out on that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is crazy to me. And then Pennsylvania is actually one of the more confusing states. I looked up a chart of where you could buy alcohol in Pennsylvania. I'll actually link this article. It's from the Philadelphia Inquirer, because it's literally this whole article about how to purchase alcohol in Pennsylvania, because it depends on if you want liquor, if you want wine, if you want beer, and who can sell it.
Yeah.
Because liquor you can't get at a convenience store. You have to go to a liquor store or to direct to a distillery. But then you can get wine at a convenience store, but they limit you so that it can only be 3 liters per transaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're real specific.
Yes. Or if you want more wine than that per transaction, then you could go to a liquor store. And then beer, like I was saying, you can't buy in a liquor store at all. You have to do the distributor thing.
Right.
Or a bar.
Sounds like a regulation nightmare. Like, I wonder how many people they pay to enforce these regulations. Because it's very specific.
It's so specific. I think we said that at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also remember, which I think you can identify with too, is going to Pennsylvania and going to a distributor and just getting a case of Yingling because you couldn't buy Yingling.
Oh, anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, it was hard to get a hold of in Indiana, and it was definitely hard to get a hold of, I would say, in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
New Hampshire
didn't have it. No.
I remember when I first started seeing Yingling in Indiana, I was excited. And now, the excitement has worn off. I've moved on. It's fine. But I do remember the day.
Yeah. There weren't really a lot of craft beers.
That's
back
true.
Then,
that's true.
Either. So
choices were more limited.
Yingling was novel.
Yes. It was exotic. It was all the way from Pennsylvania.
Oh my God. The exotic beer locale of Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I complain about Indiana beer and liquor laws sometimes, or some of the stupid stuff that we've done, like not selling alcohol on Sundays. I just think that's dumb, but at least I'm not Pennsylvania.
Well, but it could be confusing of where to get stuff in Pennsylvania. But we could talk about when I lived in Kansas and then in Oklahoma, where you couldn't even get it if you wanted to.
Yeah, that also really makes me appreciate the Indiana laws. Was when you moved to Kansas and Oklahoma and you were telling me about your beer plight. I was, wow, that's like next level.
So Kansas, they're really restrictive and have been for a while. Again, a lot of these things have changed, but it's been very recent that they've changed. So in Kansas, after Prohibition, they put it down to the county level to decide whether or not they were going to be a dry county. But in Kansas, every county is dry by default, and they had to vote to make it not dry.
Wow.
Which is, the opposite of most places, because the counties start dry. Tennessee's also like that, but I think otherwise it's the opposite situation. So Kansas, you had to vote on whether or not you were going to be a wet county. And then for a very long time, you could only get alcohol at a private club.
Ooh, a club.
So you had to, so you had to be like a member of a club. I mean, basically these are bars, right? But you just had to have a membership in order to be able to go and drink. And that was because they had a prohibition on open saloons. So this tells you when they created this, that they weren't allowed to have open saloons in Kansas. So that meant that you couldn't have basically a bar that anyone could walk into and get a drink.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that law was not overturned until 1986.
Oh my God. If you wanted to go to a bar in Kansas pre-1986, you must become a member of said bar first, and then you're part of the club and can go in.
Yes, and then you could drink.
Okay.
And what's funny about that is shout out to Free State Brewery in Lawrence, Kansas. They were the first legal brewing operation in the state because they started in 1989 because the law didn't get overturned till 86.
Wow.
So they've been around, I mean, quite frankly, as a craft brewery for a long time, 1989.
A long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, they weren't allowed to even operate until 1986, so.
Yeah, it couldn't even be a thought in your head until 1986.
So in Kansas, they have also a law with regards to 3.2% beer. If you live in a state that's, you know, normal, you probably have never heard of 3.2% beer.
I had not.
So basically, 3.2% beer is beer that is 3.2% alcohol by weight, not by volume, which is a whole other strange situation. Normally, we measure alcohol by volume, ABV, but 3.2 beer is measured alcohol by weight. And so that comes out to about 3.9% by volume, which is, honestly, it's only slightly less than what you'd get in like a Bud Light or a Miller Lite. Miller Lite is 4.2%. Okay. So it's like slightly less than light beer.
Tenths of a percentage.
Yeah. Because it makes that much of a difference. Yeah. But so in Kansas, and if you want to sell anything above 3.2% by weight, you have to do it at a liquor store. So a grocery store can sell something as long as it's under 3.2%, but, you know, there's not really anything that is standard under that percentage.
And I remember you introducing me to that concept and the fact that major brewers like Bud Light, Miller Lite have like a whole separate operation just to produce beer for Kansas or for the 3.2 law, right?
Yes. Because you can find 3.2 beer in other states. So I actually looked this up, and you can find it in Colorado, had a 3.2 law for a while. Minneapolis has one. So like there are some other states that have this 3.2 thing. And so if you're a large company like, you know, Miller Coors, like Anheuser-Busch, then you're going to make some of your beer to fall under this category because there is actually a market to sell it.
Yeah, they don't want to exclude themselves from it.
Right. But, you know, craft beer and smaller operations, they're not making this kind of beer. They don't have the capacity to do it. So in Kansas, you could buy some beer at the grocery store. It generally would be, you know, a Miller Coors product, an Anheuser-Busch product, and it would be the 3.2. And if you wanted anything else, you just went to a liquor store. The caveat being that liquor stores had to close by 9 p.m. So I remember there was a couple times where this weird thing would happen where either we'd be at Free State Brewing and they could stay open as a bar, but if you wanted to get a growler, they couldn't sell it to you after 9 p.m. So there was definitely at least one time where I was there and I tried to get a growler and they were like, oh, it's after 9. We can't sell it to you, actually.
9?
Yeah. Or one time I remember, we were going to have some people over to the house and I was like, oh my gosh, we should go grab some beer. And it was like 8:45.
Oh, no.
Like, no.
No.
Gotta get to the store and check out.
Slow-mo action sequence, running to the store.
Yeah, 100. It was 100% like that. Because the cashiers, since everything's recorded, all the transactions in the cash register, they literally couldn't have a timestamp after 9. So, like, even if you were in line, no.
What?
Something I thought that was interesting about Kansas, though, was you could get a separate 3-2 license as a bar. And so you could be a bar that only sold 3-2 beer. There was a bar in Lawrence where I lived at the time that had a 3-2 license. And so if you went there, you would only get 3-2 beer.
Why would you go to a bar like that?
If you're gonna drink Miller Lite, which I was still in college, being a grad student. So realistically, it wasn't that much different.
Yes, I gotcha.
And it had a good vibe. They had a big porch.
Well, yeah.
I love a porch. I love a porch beer.
Don't you mean patio? Or was it really a porch?
Well, I guess it was more like a deck.
Okay. I would lump that in like with patio then more, but.
Oh, I think of patio and I think of like paver stones on the ground.
Well, yes, that would be technically a patio, but like
this
patio
was like
and
an
deck
elevated
are close.
Wooden.
I guess that is kind of like a porch too.
I don't know. It was like an elevated wooden deck, though.
Topic for a future episode. So fascinating.
Anyway.
Okay.
But
moving on.
But I will say that, so I was introduced to the 3-2 in Kansas, and then it became another level of my life when I moved to Oklahoma.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Tell us how it gets worse.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. So in Oklahoma, we'll go way back because in Oklahoma, when it became a state in 1907, the state constitution included the prohibition of alcohol. So the prohibition of alcohol in Oklahoma predated prohibition in the U.S. And
before it was cool.
Oklahoma getting rid of alcohol before it was cool.
Yeah.
So instead of accepting the 21st Amendment when it was passed in the U.S. to outlaw prohibition, Oklahoma instead approved the sale of beer not containing more than 3.2% alcohol by weight. So basically, they said, okay, we'll allow alcohol in our state, but it has to be 3.2 or under. They changed that in 1959. So until 1959, the entire state, you could only get 3.2 anything.
Okay.
And then in 1959 is when they first started allowing liquor stores to sell things over 3.2%. So basically you couldn't get liquor in Oklahoma.
So you had to drive to another state if you didn't drink beer.
Well, and illegally bring it back, right? Because you weren't allowed to import.
Oh, that small detail. Okay.
So in 1959 is when Oklahoma started allowing liquor stores to sell alcohol over 3.2, and it had to be at room temperature. Not allowed to sell it cold. Yes.
That is my biggest pet peeve. As we learned before, I really enjoy a cold beverage. And I hate it when you cannot buy cold beer.
Yes. So the funny thing is, when we moved to Oklahoma, I had a friend that lived there, and he came to my house and brought what he referred to as the standard Oklahoma housewarming gift, which was a warm 12-pack of Shiner Bock.
Wow.
Because,
Yeah.
you can't get it cold anywhere. So bring over a warm 12-pack and, I don't know, chill it really quick before you can even drink it. So you could buy things over 3.2% in a liquor store, but bars still could only sell things at 3.2%. That was changed in 1984 when they passed a law that allowed bars to sell mixed drinks. This is important because when I moved there, this was still the case where bars could sell mixed drinks, but they couldn't sell beer that was over 3.2% by weight.
And when you say mixed drinks, that was in 1984 that bars could serve mixed drinks?
Yes. But so the hilarious thing is when I first moved to Oklahoma, you'd get all these stereotypical big tough guys, whatever, coming into the bars, and they'd be ordering a fruity cocktail because it had more liquor than a 3.2 beer.
Like a sex on the beach, please. A Mai Tai?
Yes. Well, because otherwise all you could get was 3.2 beer in a bar.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing that's crazy, right, is because of that law with the 3.2 beer, if you were a brewery in Oklahoma, you could only sell 3.2 beer.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talking about that. That's really sad. Talk about putting the handcuffs on a thing that is supposed to be a creative craft beverage.
So Oklahoma is actually ranked 49th in the country in terms of breweries per capita because of this law, basically, because you could have a brewery, but you couldn't sell your beer on premise if it was over 3.2%, which most craft beers are over 3.2%.
Yeah.
There was a brewery, they made one wheat beer that was 3.2 by weight. And so they were allowed to sell this wheat beer. And then any other beer they made, they weren't allowed to sell. So what they would do is you could buy a pint glass and it would come with a beer in it.
Oh my gosh.
Or you could give a donation to the brewery.
A donation?
Yes. And your donation came with a beer. That was the only way that you could get their beer. What was crazy though is, so I lived there in 2016, and in 2016 is when a lot of this stuff all changed in Oklahoma. In the 2016 election, there was a huge vote. It was question 792, but it was one of the most comprehensive reform Oklahoma's alcohol laws ever. And what it did was it allowed for grocery stores, convenience stores to sell beer and wine over 3.2%. So before you had to go to a liquor store. Yes. And it allowed liquor stores to sell things cold. So you could start getting cold things.
I am a big fan of that.
And it allowed for establishments to sell beer, for bars and breweries to sell beer over 3.2. So there was a big party, obviously, at the brewery because they could actually sell their beer, which was crazy. But all that only happened in 2016. Yeah,
that's too recent for my comfort. No, I mean, that's just highly restrictive. I get wanting to put controls on alcohol. It should be a controlled substance, in my opinion. But that's extreme. And like I said, I think it would be a very sad place to live for a craft beer enthusiast.
I remember coming to visit you when I lived in Oklahoma. We came to visit you in Indiana, and I was so excited to go to breweries because I lived in Oklahoma when I feel like the craft beer scene was really exploding, 2014 to 2019. I mean, it's still exploding now, but it really started exploding around that time. And I feel like I missed all of it because I was in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's still
right
breweries exploding now and new breweries every day and plenty of craft beer to drink now. But it was a weird time where everyone, I felt like, that I knew outside of Oklahoma was talking about new breweries, and I was in Oklahoma. It was just not a thing. I was drinking 3-2 beer.
Side note, Oklahoma is the only place that I did not come to visit you when we have lived apart. And I'm starting to think that that this is not coincidental.
In fairness, I also didn't live there for very long because I was like,
it was
I need to leave. I lived there. We had this major alcohol vote. I voted for the right things, and then I was like, get out.
Yeah. I left my mark.
Actually, because I've moved around, it's kept this conversation about liquor laws going for quite a while.
Yes, it has. It's fascinating. I haven't talked about Indiana yet, which is where I am. I know about all these liquor laws just because of our conversations and because you have moved state to state. My experiences have primarily revolved around college in New Hampshire and then Indiana, which is where I've lived most of my life, and Ohio, which we visit for family. So in Indiana, I was always familiar with or kind of assumed for a long time that it must just be similar elsewhere. No purchasing of alcohol on Sundays. That was a big one. And that just got changed in 2018. But it can only noon to 8 p.m. So we do have specific hours that things can be sold. On-premise sales, which would be like a bar, go from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m., as well as stores. So liquor stores here could be open potentially until 3 a.m., but only 12 to 8 p.m. on Sundays. So, they want a short 8-hour window on Sundays.
Gotta maximize that Sunday. What? Okay.
Then the big news this year was that we legalized happy hour because you couldn't have drink specials during a specific time of the day, which is actually, I discovered, something that other states have too. So
yeah, I lived in Kansas in 2012. It was a big deal because happy hour got legalized.
Yeah. So you can have an all day drink special, like, Thirsty Thursdays, $2 pints or whatever, but it couldn't be from like, come in from 5 to 6 and get a $2 pint, which again is a weird distinction to make, I think. But
I think that there's some states now that are trying to overturn their happy hour laws too.
But then my big gripe about Indiana is that you can't buy cold beer in the grocery because I want to be able to buy cold beer anywhere. But a liquor store can sell cold beer. But see, this to me is irritating because I'm at the grocery and the beer that I want is there. It's just not cold. So,
it also ruins the integrity of the beer.
Yes, I agree. Agreed.
Yeah.
But you know what else? Yeah. You can sell cold wine in the grocery store. So like you can get white wine that is chilled in the grocery store, but I cannot buy a cold beer. And
that sounds like a law just to irritate you at this point.
I know.
Like what is...
I know. So I will step off my soapbox now. Just say that it irritates me. But you can buy beer, wine, and liquor in the grocery. You can buy beer, wine, and liquor in a liquor store. And our liquor in the grocery store is real liquor, not half strength liquor.
In Maryland, where I am now, you can't buy anything in a grocery store. You have to go to a liquor store for everything. Yeah, but that's an easy rule to remember, right? It's like, okay, just go to the liquor store.
You have to go to one place. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But I've always found interesting some of our alcohol laws around bars and taverns specifically, I guess is what it is in the law. So obviously minors or under 21 are not allowed to go into liquor stores or bars. But if a restaurant has a bar, then it has to have some kind of barrier between the bar and the restaurant. And if you're under 21, you can't pass that barrier. But if there's no barrier and the bar is just open to the restaurant, then the whole establishment is 21 plus.
Oh.
So you have to separate the bars somehow, and then you have to put up signage that says like no one 21 beyond this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, right? It's kind of weird, but not the case in breweries. I think breweries are a little bit different. So a weird barrier thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, where did babies hang out before there were breweries, right? Like,
yeah, right. Yeah. And
children running free.
I was gonna say, this law does not irritate me because it means that some of our favorite places to go eat are also incidentally child free. So you know what vibe you're getting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right. If you are going out to have an adult beverage, it's fine if it's in an adult establishment.
Right. But also fine to have excellent food, which
true.
Because not all bars do food well, and not all restaurants do alcohol well. So
that's accurate.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, just, not being able to buy cold beer in the grocery stores. All things considered, I feel like, as in most things, Indiana feels kind of middle of the road, middle of the pack with the restrictions and the laws.
Should we end with just some other fun facts about places that I haven't lived, but I think is fun?
Yes, let's do that. Tell me.
Well, I think the drive-through alcohol establishments are fascinating.
Oh, yes.
Like in Texas, you can drive through and order an alcoholic beverage from your car, like a mixed drink, like a daiquiri. Yep. And then as long as it has a lid on it,
and
there's no straw in the cup, you can drive away, which is crazy because you obviously could just take the lid off.
Yes. But I mean, just like it's on the honor system. They're fine with it. Yeah.
I guess Texas is just everyone has to drive everywhere they go. So they figure might as well.
That drive-through practice is also in Louisiana. They're actually the originators of that. And then Mississippi and Texas and Florida also began allowing that. So here's my fun fact. Nevada is the only state where there's no mandated last call, which totally makes sense because of Las Vegas. So literally you can buy alcohol at an establishment 24 hours a day and they will not kick you out. There's never a last call like at 3 a.m. or whatever where you have to, last drink of the night. Not in Las Vegas. Well, and Nevada as a whole, as a result.
That is fascinating.
And I also ran across and did not realize that this was something that still occurred, but some states don't sell alcohol on election day.
What?
Yeah. Alaska and Massachusetts have bans on buying alcohol anywhere. Like, so you can't go in a bar, you can't do it at the store or whatever, while the polls are open. And so literally when the polls close, that's when you can start buying alcohol again.
I feel like on election day is a day that I need to have a beverage.
I know. Well, that's why it's when the polls close, right? If it was like a 24-hour thing, that probably wouldn't have gone over so well.
I feel like in order to vote, I need to hype myself up with, yes.
Okay, that's fair. Well,
right? So maybe I need to be waiting in the line with a wine purse or something in order to make myself, plug my nose and vote.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news. I mean, you can plan ahead. So it's one of those plan ahead situations. Just come prepared to election day if you're in Massachusetts or Alaska. But fun fact for you, Maryland resident, Maryland was actually the first state that had that kind of ban during election day. But that was way back in 1811. So you guys got rid of that a while ago.
Yeah. Maryland really, fun facts, more to continue, but we really were opposed to the whole prohibition thing for a long time. And because Maryland's such a big port state, right? The Port of Baltimore is so huge.
Yep.
We were really anti-prohibition. And so what's interesting is basically when prohibition happened on the federal level, the state of Maryland didn't really enact any kind of laws to follow it. And so a lot of Maryland just didn't enforce prohibition at all.
Oh, wow.
And there's Yeah, so there's some bars in Baltimore. They were just continuously operating through prohibition and didn't bother to enforce any of that.
And not as a speakeasy. Just like they're just like out in the open.
Yes. They had some like warning signs for if, you know, the feds were going to come and raid them or whatever, but
okay.
But like they
Fascinating.
just didn't. I think the local law enforcement in Maryland just kind of turned
Nice.
the blind eye.
Well, speaking of that actually leads into my last fun fact. Speaking of lack of laws or lack of regulation, I was shocked to find out that Missouri is one of the most alcohol permissive states. They have no open container law, so you can just like walk around with an open beer anywhere you want. Okay. No state public intoxication law, so you can also get as drunk as you want and in public and not get in trouble. Okay. They are also allowed to manufacture, like individuals are allowed to manufacture up to 100 gallons of any liquor per year for personal use without any further state limitation, taxation, or state license. So 100 gallons of liquor, if you would like to make it, state's not going to regulate it.
This is just giving Ozark vibes.
Yeah,
sure.
Right? Yes. Okay. And then the other unique one that's very permissive and does not exist in other states is that parents and guardians may give alcohol to their children. So you don't have to be 21 to drink, and you won't get in trouble for drinking if you're under 21. You just can't purchase it. There's only a few states where that's allowed. And I was reading too, there's some that have provisions like, oh, well, if you're under 21, you can have alcohol for religious reasons.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Gotta get communion.
Those four things combined makes Missouri one of the most permissive states when it comes to alcohol. So
I would not have guessed Missouri.
I would not have either.
I feel like we could talk about this topic for forever and go through every state, but maybe we have a part 2. People, if you have interesting liquor laws, you know, let us know. We'll cover some of the other states.
Interesting.
As fascinating as us.
Yes. To generate nearly 20 years of conversation at different points in time.
So obvious, right?
Yes, it
liquor
is.
Laws.
I mean, obviously.
So thank you for listening to Researching the Obvious. To learn more fun facts about everything that we're researching, follow us on Instagram at Researching the Obvious Pod, all one word. You can also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you know someone that you think would enjoy listening to all of our findings, please feel free to share or give us a review. Researching the Obvious is written, produced, edited, and hosted by Emily Fekete and Katie Nakanishi. Tune in next time to hear more obvious facts.